Let's leave the noise of the day behind, just for a little while. Good evening, friends. I'm Mr. Narratore, and I'll be your voice tonight as we drift gently towards sleep. If these stories help you relax or fall asleep a little easier, consider liking and subscribing. It really means a lot. Tell me in the comments, what time is it for you right now? And do you have any little bedtime rituals? Now, settle in, get comfortable, close your eyes if you'd like, because it's time for tonight's story. I moved into apartment 6B after a year that nearly ended me. New job, new city, needed out of the old one, bad breakup, worse debt. I didn't have much left except what I could carry in my car. The place wasn't big, but it was clean. Second floor, brick building. Only 10 tenants. The landlord was a guy named Victor, late 60s. Lived on site in 1A. Showed me the unit and handed me the keys with a smile, too practiced to be kind. Told me the guy next to me in 6C was quiet, kept to himself. I didn't think much of it. The first few nights were fine. A little creaky, thin walls. The guy in 6C coughed a lot. That deep, wet cough that makes you wonder if someone's dying or if they just want you to think they are. I unpacked, set up my laptop, my small bed. Tried to enjoy the quiet. The window looked out onto the alley between buildings. Not much light, not much of a view, but I liked it. No eyes on me. Until the fourth night, I woke up to a sound I couldn't place. Not a knock, not a scream. Something in between, like a cough and a whisper, happening at the same time. It came from the shared wall with 6C. I pressed my ear to it. Nothing. Just the smell of dust and something faintly metallic. I went back to bed. In the morning, there was a note on my door. Slipped under it. Plain paper. No envelope. Just one line. You don't lock your windows at night. My blood ran cold. I checked. He was right. The latch was still open. I knew I'd meant to lock it. Swore I had. I called the landlord, told him someone was messing with me. He said no one else had a key, that it must have blown open from the wind, that the guy in 6C didn't leave his unit, ever. I bought a new latch that day, bolted it shut, slept with a chair against the door. Nothing happened for a while. Then the next note came. Your toothpaste cap is missing. I left it by the sink. Clean it more often. I checked. The cap was there, but I'd thrown it out the night before. I was sure of it. It had fallen behind the cabinet and gotten dusty. No way I was keeping it. I looked up at the vent, wondered if he could see me through it, wondered if he'd come in while I slept. That's when I started hearing it. A camera click. Not loud, just soft, mechanical. Always when I turned out the lights, always when I whispered to myself. The man in 6C never came out during the day, but his window was always open, and something in the dark glinted, like glass, like a lens. I didn't sleep after the third note. I left every light on. Sat in the kitchen with a baseball bat across my lap. The kind of fear that doesn't shout anymore. The kind that just waits. I told myself I'd confront him. Ask what he wanted. Find out if he was sick or crazy or both. It was daylight when I did it. Middle of a Saturday. Just past noon, I walked out my door, turned left, and stood in front of 6C. Nothing looked unusual. Beige paint, old door, peeling corners. But there was something wrong. I didn't see it at first, not until I reached for the knob. There wasn't one. No handle. Just a blank metal plate where the hardware should be. No peephole, no keyhole. Just a smooth surface like the door had been sealed up and no one had told it. I stepped back, looked again. Still 6C. Still had the little metal number on it, but no way in. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder. The door didn't shake, didn't echo. It absorbed sound. I leaned my head against it. Thought I heard breathing, not strained, calm, like someone was sleeping just on the other side, or pretending to. I backed away and went downstairs. Knocked on the landlord's door. He answered slower than last time. Same forced smile. I asked him if the guy in 6C was home. He said, yeah, always is. Never leaves. I told him there was no handle, that the door looked sealed shut. He paused, like the words didn't make sense to him. Then he said that unit's been under long-term arrangement. I asked what that meant. He waved it off. Said it was complicated. Said the guy was private. Didn't like disturbance. I asked again if he ever left. He just said some people don't need to. Then he shut the door, locked it behind him. I stood there a while, listening, didn't hear anything. Back upstairs, I checked my window. His was still open, but the curtain had been pulled back, just enough for me to see something new. A photo taped to the inside of the glass of me, sitting on the couch, head down, reading. My window reflected behind me. I recognized the shirt. I'd worn it 3 nights ago. I ran to my apartment, pulled my curtains shut, turned every light on, unplugged everything with a lens. The camera, the laptop, the webcam. I checked the vent again. It smelled like copper, like someone had been touching the inside with greasy hands. That night, I turned off all electronics, left my phone in the fridge, just in case. I sat in the dark, waited, listened. The clicks came just after 2, 0 a.m., not from outside, from the wall. Like someone snapping pictures an inch from my ear, I turned on the lamp, looked at the wall, nothing. Then I noticed something, a crack in the paint, a line I hadn't seen before. I ran my hand over it, a seam, vertical, about the size of a door, but it wasn't a door, not anymore. It had been sealed, painted, hidden. I didn't know what it meant yet, but I knew I hadn't seen it before. I took a picture, posted it on a private forum, asked if anyone had ever seen something like it in an apartment. One reply, just 4 words, move. Before he does. I didn't sleep after I saw the scene. I kept checking it every hour. Ran my fingers along the paint. It wasn't just a crack. It had depth, texture, like it had been sealed years ago, maybe decades. Like someone had forgotten it was there or tried very hard to. I put duct tape over the seam, all the way down, then pushed the bookshelf in front of it. Not because I thought it would help, just because it made me feel like I was doing something. That night, I didn't turn off the lights. I didn't shower. I sat in the armchair and waited for the click. It came at 2:14 a.m., this time louder, followed by a dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across a wood floor. My floor is carpet, there's no wood. The sound came again, closer, like it was circling my apartment. Then a tap, gentle, not the door, not the window, the wall, right behind the bookshelf. I didn't move, just stared. Then the tape started peeling, one strip at a time, slow, deliberate. I grabbed the bat and backed up. The bookshelf trembled. A puff of dust fell from the top. Then something slid through the crack. Something white. It dropped to the floor, and the seam went still. I waited 15 minutes before I moved, slowly walked over. The thing on the floor was a shirt. Mine, folded once, still warm. It was the one I couldn't find last week. I thought I left it at the laundromat. I picked it up. Smelled faintly like bleach and dust. There was something in the pocket. I reached in and pulled it out. A Polaroid. Fresh. Still smelling like chemicals. My face sleeping. Mouth open. Blanket half off. Taken from the ceiling angle. I don't have a ceiling camera. I don't even have a step stool. I dropped it. Locked myself in the bathroom. Sat in the tub for 2 hours. Listening. No more tapping. No more dragging. Just silence. Heavy. Pressing. Like something was waiting for me to come back out. In the morning I called the landlord. Told him something came through the wall. That someone was getting into my unit. He said that wasn't possible. Said no one had a key. Said I was probably just dreaming. When I asked him again about 6C, he said I was mistaken. That the unit didn't exist. That the building skipped from 6B to 6D. I told him I'd seen the door. He said I was confused. He hung up on me. I went outside and checked the mailboxes. 10 slots, all labeled 6A, 6B, 6D, 6E, no 6C. The space where it should have been was filled with cement, smooth, perfect, like it had never been there at all. I walked up the stairs, counted the doors again. 6A, 6B. Then the blank door. No number now, no plate, just flat wood. I ran my fingers along the frame, still no handle, still warm. Back in my apartment, I checked every closet, every drawer. I found nothing out of place, except my sock drawer. There was a note written on a torn paper receipt. Same handwriting as before. Just one sentence. You look better in blue. I went out and bought 2 motion cameras. Cheap ones. No audio. Just movement-triggered clips. I didn't tell anyone what they were for. I barely spoke to anyone anymore. I set one up in the living room facing the bookshelf and the sealed wall. The other I placed in the kitchen to cover the hallway just in case it came from another direction. I didn't expect to catch anything. Part of me still wanted this to be stress. Some kind of breakdown. Too much caffeine. Too much time alone. But another part of me knew better. That part kept waking up at exactly 2:14 every single night. I sat up waiting again. No sound, no tapping, no dragging. I didn't hear the click, but when I checked the camera logs the next morning, the light on the device was blinking red. Movement detected. The timestamp said 2:16 a.m. I clicked the file, The screen jumped, then steadied. The bookshelf sat still, no movement. Then the duct tape began to peel on its own. Again, quiet. One slow strip at a time, like fingers pulling it off deliberately. Then the shelf shook, just once, and something long and pale pushed through the seam. Not a hand, not a leg, something in between, bent the wrong way, thin, sharp at the joints. It crawled forward, half in shadow, no face, just skin. Like a body that forgot to finish growing, it slid out, bent low to the ground, like it was sniffing or listening. Then it turned toward the camera. It didn't have eyes, but it knew it was being watched. It raised a finger, pressed it to where its mouth should be, then vanished. No walking, no crawling, just gone. Like it had stepped backward through the wall. The second camera triggered too. I opened that file. The hallway was empty for 5 full minutes. Then my bedroom door creaked open on its own. Nothing came through, but the bathroom light flicked on, then off. Then the fridge opened. Something took a bottle of water. The door shut. I didn't see who or what, but the camera caught the shadow. Something long, low, leaning just out of frame. Watching, waiting. I packed a bag that morning. I told myself I'd go stay with a friend, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. Not yet. Not when I finally had something real, something I could prove. I uploaded the footage to a private drive, sent it to myself twice, then printed the still frame of the thing coming through the wall, taped it above the light switch, as a reminder that I wasn't losing it, that this was happening. The bookshelf was back in place, untouched, the tape fully intact, but the wall was warm again, and it pulsed, once, like a breath held and released. I sat down at my laptop, watched the footage again, frame by frame, and noticed something I missed. In the corner, reflected in the TV screen, a figure standing behind me the whole time, facing the camera, wearing my missing blue hoodie, mouth stitched closed. I didn't touch the bookshelf for 3 days. I kept waiting for it to move on its own again, for the thing to slide back through, for the crack to reappear. But nothing happened, not while I was watching, only in the footage, only when I was too tired to keep my eyes open. That's when it came. That's when it moved. I stopped sleeping, sat on the floor with my back to the wall, bat in hand, camera always recording, but all I caught were flickers, lights dimming, static on the laptop screen, shadows stretching the wrong way across the room. The tape on the wall curled at the edges. The air turned stale, like something was rotting behind the plaster. On the 4th day, I snapped. I pulled the shelf forward, books crashed to the floor, the frame splintered. I didn't care. I wanted to see, needed to. Behind the shelf was the seam, but more than that, there were nails, driven into the drywall in a square shape about the size of a door. Some were rusted, others looked new, like someone had added to them over the years. I got a screwdriver, started prying, one by one, metal groaning, paint flaking. The drywall cracked. I pushed, and the whole panel fell inward. Behind it was a door, Full wooden frame, no knob, just a latch on my side. It was painted the same beige as my wall, like someone had once tried to blend it in. But it wasn't flush. It was slightly crooked, warped by time or pressure. I pulled it open. The room behind it was narrow, deep, no windows. Just old tile floor and walls covered in something that looked like padding, the kind you see in old asylums, stained, scratched. At the end of the room was a chair, metal, bolted to the floor, with leather straps hanging loose. Above it, another seam in the wall, another door. But this one had a number on it, 6C. I stepped inside. The temperature dropped immediately. The air tasted metallic. The moment I crossed the threshold, I felt pressure in my skull, like someone was pushing their fingers into my temples. I walked to the chair, sat down, just for a second, just to see how it felt. That was when the inner door creaked. The one marked 6C. It opened a crack. I didn't move, couldn't. The light in the hallway flickered. A voice whispered, close, next to my ear. You're in my seat. I stood, backed away, shut the hidden door, pushed the shelf back, sat in the living room, shaking, breathing like I'd just run 10 miles. I didn't go back into that space for 2 days, but I heard it, movement, breathing. Once I woke up and the panel had been pushed slightly open again, just an inch, just enough to see the padded wall and the straps hanging in the dark, and a hand resting on the frame, pale, long, with my ring on its finger. I didn't sleep again after I saw the hand. I watched the wall all night. The door didn't open further. The shelf stayed still, but the air changed. It got thicker, like it had weight, like I was breathing in something that wasn't meant to be in the lungs. I started hearing noises again, clicking, dragging, the same wet cough I'd heard when I first moved in, always around 2:14, then silence. The kind that isn't quiet but full, like the world holding its breath. I decided to go back in, not because I was ready, because I was tired of being afraid of a wall, tired of pretending I wasn't living next to something that knew more about me than I knew about myself. I moved the shelf again, opened the panel. The room was just as narrow, just as cold. The chair sat in the middle like it hadn't moved in decades. The walls seemed to pulse, breathing in slow rhythm. At the end, the door marked 6C was cracked again, this time wider. I stepped closer. My footsteps didn't echo. They were swallowed, like the floor-absorbed sound. I touched the door. It was warm. I pushed. It opened inward. The room beyond wasn't what I expected. No blood, no chains, just a perfect mirror of my own apartment. Same furniture, same layout, same broken lamp in the corner. But everything was flipped, like someone had mirrored my life and lived it across the wall. I stepped in. The air was heavier here. The walls were darker, stained in places I hadn't touched. On the coffee table sat my missing notebook, pages torn, notes I didn't remember writing. Phrases like, how long has he watched? And is this body still mine? I turned toward the bedroom. The door was open. The bed was made. Someone sat on the edge, back facing me, shoulders hunched. Wearing the blue hoodie I thought I'd lost. I said hello. No answer. I stepped closer. The figure turned slowly. Its face was mine. Eyes hollow, mouth stitched shut. But it wasn't a reflection. It moved wrong. It blinked at the wrong rhythm. It smiled without moving its lips. Then it stood, taller than me, leaner. Like someone had stretched my skin over a different frame, it stepped forward. I stepped back. It raised a hand, pointed toward the mirror above the dresser. I turned to look. My reflection stared back, but the stitched version stood behind me in the glass. Closer now. The room flickered. Not the lights, the space itself. Like two places trying to occupy the same coordinates. I backed out. Fast. Through the mirrored living room, into the padded hallway. The door slammed behind me. No sound, just force. The temperature spiked, then dropped. I shoved the panel shut, pushed the bookshelf back, locked myself in the bathroom. When I came out hours later, the wall looked normal, seamless. No crack, no tape. But on the table, a Polaroid taken from the inside. My back to the bookshelf, and in the mirror him, standing behind me, staring into the lens, one hand raised, waving. I left the apartment at sunrise. Didn't pack, didn't lock the door, just walked. Got in the car, drove with no plan. Ended up parked outside the police station in a neighboring town. I sat in the lot for 30 minutes trying to convince myself this was something I could say out loud, that I could walk in there and explain the hidden room, the door with no handle, the stitched version of myself, the photos, the bag, all of it. I walked in eventually. The woman at the front desk asked if I was okay. I lied. Said someone might be watching me, stalking me. That I thought they'd been in my apartment. She nodded slowly, asked for the address. When I said, either expression changed. Not fear, not concern, recognition, like she'd heard it before. She typed something into her computer. Her eyes didn't leave the screen. After a long pause, she said something strange. You said 6B, not 6C? I nodded. She clicked around, then asked if I was subleasing. I told her no, that I'd signed the lease myself. Then she looked at me differently, not like a victim, like a problem. She asked me to wait. Walked into the back. Another officer came out, younger. Didn't smile. Asked me to repeat everything. I told him I thought the guy next door had been inside my place, that he left notes, that he knew things he shouldn't, that the building might have an illegal passage or access point. He didn't write anything down, just listened. Then asked if I'd heard of someone named Charlie Dorian. I hadn't. He said he used to live in 6B 5 years ago, went missing. No signs of forced entry. Car still in the lot. Rent paid up through the end of the year. Just gone. Left everything behind. I asked if they ever found him. The officer said no. Then pulled out a folder. Slid a photo across the table. It was the man in the stitched hoodie. Same height, same face shape, same eyes, but clean, alive. Wearing a blue hoodie, same one that ended up back in my closet. He said this was taken a week before Charlie disappeared. I asked if they ever investigated 6C. The officer looked at the desk clerk, then back at me. There is no 6C. I asked what that meant. He said the building's permit lists 6B and 6D. No in between. The space is supposed to be a fire barrier, nothing more. But tenants had been reporting sounds from that wall for years, all unprovable, all vague. Some blamed rats, some blamed the plumbing. One said a man watched her sleep. One said the mirror in her bedroom never showed her own reflection after 2 a.m. Another said he found a note tucked in his jacket pocket while shopping across town. Same handwriting, same phrase. You look better when you don't talk. I asked for a copy of the report. They said it wasn't public, that most of the file was sealed. Family request. I asked if I should be worried. The officer looked tired, said I should find somewhere else to stay, that some places don't want to be lived in. They want to remember you. I left. No plan, just drove. Got gas, bought coffee. Pulled into a rest stop hours later and slept in the car. When I woke up the next morning, there was a note on my dashboard, folded, written on receipt paper, same handwriting. You're not the first, but you could be the last if you stop looking. I told myself I wasn't going back. Told myself sleeping in the car was safer, that the cold was better than the silence behind the walls. But after 3 nights parked at gas stations and rest stops, I realized something. It didn't matter how far I drove, I still felt it. The pull, the knowing, like a string had been tied around my chest and knotted just beneath the floor of that building. And when I closed my eyes, I didn't dream. I just remembered. The chair in the hidden room, the hand with my ring, the stitched face behind me in the reflection. None of it faded. If anything, it was getting clearer. So I went back. It was just after dusk. The building looked the same, too quiet. No lights in any windows except mine, 6B. It was still listed, my name still on the mailbox. But 6C was gone again. No plate, no gap, just wall. Still, I walked up the stairs slowly, listening, feeling the pressure change with every step. When I reached the landing, the hallway light flickered. Just once, then steadied. I stood in front of the wall where the door should have been. It was blank, but warmer than before. I pressed my palm against it. Something clicked. A seam appeared, thin, almost invisible. Then a narrow line ran down the center. The wall split. No hinges, no knob. It just opened, like it had been waiting for the right touch. Inside was darkness, deep, cold. But it didn't feel empty. It felt occupied. I stepped inside. The air shifted. My breath caught. And the wall closed behind me. The hallway was padded again. Same narrow corridor. Same chair at the end. But this time, the door marked 6C was already open. Light spilled through, soft yellow, flickering like candlelight. I walked forward, slowly. Felt the temperature drop with every step. I looked down. There were footprints on the tile, bare, pale, leading from the chair into the room beyond. I crossed the threshold. What I saw shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. The room wasn't flipped anymore. It was mine, perfectly mine, identical in every way, except for one thing. Everything was faded, like a photograph left in sunlight. My books, my blankets, my face, In the mirror, all washed out, bleached of time. I walked to the window, looked outside. Nothing, just black. Not night, not sky, just absence. Then I heard it, a cough. The one I remembered from the first night, wet, labored, from behind the bedroom door. I turned. It was open, just a crack. I pushed it wider. Someone was lying in the bed, facing the wall. Still, too still. I stepped closer, reached out. My fingers brushed the blanket, cold. Then the figure moved, not fast, just enough to show me it wasn't asleep. It rolled toward me. It was me, but ruined. Skin sagged, lips sewn tight, eyes open but unfocused. The arms were too long, the fingers too sharp. It raised one hand and pointed behind me. I turned. The mirror on the wall showed us both. Him in the bed, me at the foot of it, and standing in the doorway another shape. Not me, not stitched, just wrong. Empty where a face should be. Hands twitching, holding a key. And I realized something awful. 6C never existed on paper, because it was never a unit. It was a reflection, a copy, a backup. And once it finished copying everything it needed, it didn't need me anymore. I ran. I don't remember how long I was inside 6C. Maybe hours, maybe minutes. Time didn't move normally in there, but I ran. Back down the padded hallway, past the chair, through the door that had opened without a handle, back into my unit, into 6B, or what was left of it, because something had changed. The walls looked the same, but paler, duller, like they'd been scrubbed of detail. My books were still on the shelf, but all the titles were blank, the spines white. My laptop was closed, wouldn't turn on. The keyboard keys had no letters, just smooth plastic squares. I opened the fridge, empty, not just of food, of shelving. No labels, no brand names, just shape. I touched the light switch. It didn't click. The lights still worked, but they weren't the same. Dimmer, flickering, like someone had drawn them instead of wired them. My clothes hung in the closet, but every item was the same color, off-white. My ID was still in my wallet. The photo was gone. My name had faded to just a first initial, N. I checked my phone. No signal, no apps, just one notification. A calendar alert titled Copy Complete. No timestamp, no option to clear it. I called the police again. From the building phone in the front office, the line connected. A voice answered. Familiar. Mine. Hello. I didn't speak. The voice repeated it. Then said, "You're late." The line went dead. I ran to the landlord's door. Knocked hard. No answer. I tried the knob. It opened. The unit was dark, dusty, covered in tarps, no signs of life. Just a file cabinet in the center of the room. I pulled the top drawer. Files, all labeled 6B Marsh, 6B Dorian, 6B L Hayes, and the last one, 6B N. My file. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a list, each name, each date, a final column. status. The first two read extracted. The third, corrupted. Mine, pending. I heard movement behind me. Turned. Nothing. Just the slow creak of a door. But not mine. The one across the hall. 6C. Open again. I could see inside now. My copy wasn't in bed anymore. The mirror was cracked. The light inside flickered in patterns, not random. Like Morse code, I filmed it, uploaded it later. It translated to one phrase, bring them home. I walked back to my apartment, sat down. The couch wasn't soft anymore, just a shape, a memory. I looked out the window. The view had changed. No alley, no bricks, just static, moving like TV snow. And in the glass, my reflection stayed even when I turned my head. That's when I understood. The copy wasn't supposed to replace me. It was supposed to contain me, the real me, in pieces, collected through cameras, through glass, through sound, over weeks. It took my routines, my habits, my words, my shape. It built its own version of me across the wall. And now that it was completed, didn't need the original. It didn't want to kill me. It wanted me to dissolve, to fade out, so no one would ask where I went, so no one would notice the change, so no one would knock when the stitched version waved back. I don't know how long I've been in here now. Days stopped meaning anything. There's no sunlight anymore, just gray, the kind that comes from a light bulb painted to look like the sky. My phone doesn't work. The screen won't stay on long enough for me to write or call anyone. It flickers, like it's struggling to hold on to a name it doesn't recognize anymore. My laptop powers up but never boots. The files are still there, but they don't open. They spin. They pulse. They hum at a frequency that makes my teeth hurt. My own face on the login screen is no longer mine. It's smoother, thinner, like someone drew it from memory, but forgot the small flaws that make people real. I tried to leave again, opened the apartment door, walked into the hall, but the hallway wasn't the same. It didn't go left or right. It stretched down in both directions, like a mirror reflection repeating into itself forever. Every door was 6B. Every doormat was mine. Every one I opened led back to my apartment, over and over, but with one difference each time. A new photo on the wall, a new crack in the mirror, a slightly different version of the couch, the shape of my smile a little too sharp in the reflection. I stopped trying after the 12th. When I found the version of me still sleeping in the bed, breathing slow, eyes stitched shut, hands folded over a chest that wasn't rising anymore. So now I wait. Sometimes I hear footsteps in the hall. Not heavy, not fast, measured, slow, like someone being guided. I press my ear to the wall. Listen. The landlord's voice, low, calm, explaining how the building's old, that the units are oddly shaped, that 6C doesn't exist, but that it's quiet here, private, that 6B is perfect for starting over. That's what he told me to. I checked the mirror today, the one in the bathroom. It doesn't show me anymore, just the stitched version, sitting in the living room, watching the front door, waiting. And I realized It isn't waiting for me. It's waiting for them, whoever's next, because that's what happens here. The building doesn't kill you. It absorbs you, and then it rents the space to someone else. Someone tired, someone lost, someone just looking for silence. And in the end, they'll find it. Inside the walls, inside the padded room, inside the version of themselves that already knows how they'll scream and how they'll eventually stop. I heard a knock on the door just now. 3 soft taps. I don't get visitors, but I know what it means. Another one signed the lease, and the man in apartment 6C is already watching.